Alright, listen up everyone. They've announced that the technical regulations are changing for next season. Now there's a risk a lot of our hard work could be undone if we're not careful, so let's figure out how to mitigate this. Drivers, take a look at the developments we have and let us know what you want to invest in protecting. Alright everyone, let's get on top of this.
Well, we have a big regulation change in store, and it's very late in the year, guys, as we only have this race and one more to go. You can see on screen, though, the weather forecast this weekend for the Brazilian Grand Prix. If you guys missed the previous episode, guys, at Japan, then I'll leave it linked up in the top right-hand corner of your screen. But you can see right now in the background, it's very close between Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari now, as the three of us all kind of bunch up at the top of the table as we approach the end of the season. So things are getting very tasty indeed. Now, you might be wondering, where will that regulation change affect things next year? And that is going to be the engine department. So we'll keep that in mind, but also worth noting, we do also have a chassis upgrade on the way, and that will hopefully arrive before the next race, the finale of Season 1 in Abu Dhabi. But with that said, we move into practice here this weekend, and Brazil, a great track, classic track, and one of my favourites on the calendar, and I'm very much looking forward to it as we jump into business here. And straight away, practice was interesting because you can see on the bottom right, I was doing it with a pretty worn engine, and I was at this point where we're starting to run out of power unit components, and you saw the engine where in the bottom right we scored some pretty decent points after practice, and our total now pretty much 1,500 R&D points, and also making our way up to level 11 almost now. And worth noting, after practice we're going to qualify and actually revert back to some older components which are actually a bit fresher in certain areas, so hopefully that will help us out. But I do believe we will have to take a penalty in the final race in Abu Dhabi, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But with that said, we move into qualifying here at Interlagos, and we're going to see how the session goes, and fingers crossed we can try and perform, because this is one of the stronger tracks for the AI in terms of one lap pace, so I feel like we're going to have our work cut out for us. And to be fair, this car really works around here. You know, it feels different to the My Team car in certain areas, and the Red Bull really grippy in low speed corners, and it just felt really competitive and really consistent. As we crossed the line, we set our first lap in Q1, we set a 1 minute 6.3 and go up to third place straight away, and that lap was actually enough to get us through into Q2, and to be fair, relatively unchallenged, and just marginally ahead of Alex Albon there, as Bottas leads the way for Mercedes. Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel looking a lot more competitive this weekend with Ferrari's new upgrades as we now move into Q2. And this was my best lap in Q2, to be fair. Normally my best lap is the second one, but in this case it was actually my first one, and no real mistakes, very consistent and a very strong lap. Our first lap, of course, in Q1 was a 1 minute 6.3. This lap is going to be a 1 minute 6.3 as well, so we match that time. We go slightly quicker, and we go quickest of everybody because we've got a lot of guys on medium tyres like the Mercedes and both of the Ferraris. Eventually though, I went out again in Q2, and I went out for a precautionary run, so I was the last car to cross the line. Once I realised I wasn't going to get knocked out, then I brought the car into the pits and brought an end to that session, because there was no need for me to finish the lap and, you know, put any extra wear on my tyres. So we go through P6, Alex Albon in second place, and to be fair, again, comfortable, 2.5 tenths in our pocket. And with that, we move into Q3, and this is where things get very serious, and, you know, you leave it all out on the table trying to maximize your lap time. Now, this was my first lap in Q3, and to be fair, it wasn't that bad, but it definitely wasn't my best lap, and there was a big issue here. So a 1 minute 7.2, nearly a second off what I've done before. The lap felt great, but then I realized in the bottom right, I actually did the entire lap on none on the ERS mode, which was a big mistake from me. So a bit of a hiccup really, and throwing away one of my 2 timed laps in Q3. So it's all down to this. This lap has to be perfect. Will it be perfect? We're about to find out. Let's go for a lap here of Interlagos. And there we go, opening the DRS, now running up to the line and keeping the car to the left-hand side for the shortest run. We do improve, and it is our best lap of the weekend. The question is, where is it going to be? And it's going to be 3rd place, and I will take that. That is a very solid qualifying for us, and a very good result actually, a 1 minute 5.8. And you know, we made a bit of a mistake in the hairpin as well, so we pull it out of the bag. A really strong lap when it matters. Charles Leclerc though was the class of the field in qualifying, a 1 minute 5.5. That was absolutely unbeatable. Such a ridiculous lap time, and Hamilton can only manage P2. So yeah, in the end, it is what it is. Of course, we are now out of the running for the World Championship. We won the last 3 races, but Hamilton, it's pretty much him versus Bottas, and Hamilton has an advantage over his teammate in terms of the rivalry. Alex Albon only managing P9 in qualifying. As we look at the rivalry breakdown, and we can see we outscored Bottas now. We're 3 points ahead heading into the final race of the rivalry, so hopefully we can pick up the W and get that win secured, and also another small boost there as we close in on level 11 on the driver acclaim. But guys, that is it for qualifying. We're now going to move into the race for the penultimate race of the season for the Brazilian Grand Prix.
Formula One returns to Sao Paulo once again with the stage set for what promises to be another classic Brazilian Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel famously clinched his 3rd championship here in 2012, and in 2016, Max Verstappen treated us to one of the finest wet weather drives of all time. We're racing today then at Interlagos, a historic 2.7-mile circuit, and one of the few anti-clockwise tracks on the calendar. 15 corners in total, 9 to the left and 6 to the right, with a technical middle section opening up to a flat-out Sector 3. And that gives us our best passing opportunity down into Turn 1. And as always, a man with plenty of racing experience joins me in the commentary box. Today it's Anthony Davidson. Tell me, Ant, you're no stranger to surviving the melee of Turn 1. So how do you keep out of trouble when there's so much going on around you?
There are 3 main things to worry about there, Crofty. Positioning, awareness and discipline. First, you have to put your car in a bit of space and make sure you have room to react to what the others are doing. Then you have to watch your mirrors and listen to the sounds around you to get a sense of where everyone is. And finally, just don't get too greedy. Just because a gap exists doesn't always mean you should go for it.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Martinez, Bottas, Sebastian Vettel and Albon, Ricciardo, Stroll, Giovinazzi and Kimi Raikkonen, Latifi, Sainz, Esteban Ocon and Grosjean. Norris, they've taken a grid penalty. Magnussen, Pierre Gasly and Daniel Kvyat. Russell and Sergio Perez completes our grid. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Okay guys, so first of all, for the race start, we're going to look at the strategy, and today, starting on the soft tyres, of course, that we qualified on, and then moving on to the mediums and a one-stop strategy. Very straightforward here today, and this is by far the most competitive strategy there is around Brazil. Fuel-wise, we're going to run 0.5 extra, because I feel like we're going to need that to attack cars and potentially fight for the race win here today. With that said though, let's get ready for the 5 red lights here, as hopefully we could try and get a good start. Hamilton on the left on medium tyres, the lights are on at Interlagos, and away we go. It's a lot of wheel spin for Hamilton, and we're going to get the jump on him straight away. We're going to swipe across actually and cut him off at the nose to make sure we get the inside line through the center S, and we straight away move up to P2. Charles Leclerc leading the way in the Ferrari, and Hamilton, Bottas and Vettel behind, all on medium tyres. So we're going to see if we can try and push here and pull away. Myself and Leclerc hopefully try and pull away from the pack and get that 1 second gap and beyond, and just try and really set the pace. And you know, around here the one stop is the way to go. The soft tyres last a long time, so to be fair, we shouldn't have any major issues, and the race pace I'm expecting to be on the money. So here we go then, making our way through the middle sector on lap 1. Leclerc trying to stretch us out nice and early here. Eventually though, we managed to respond and keep up with him, so you can see behind the gap to Lewis on lap number 2 now, nearly 2 seconds as we get DRS enabled here, and also reset a new fastest lap. So we're keeping the pace up and keeping the pressure on Mr. Charles Leclerc here. Meanwhile behind, Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel all starting to drop away. Can't quite keep up with the pace, of course, of myself and Leclerc on these soft tyres. Now we got to a point where there's a bit of a recurring theme around this track as we lose Carlos Sainz from the race. Now Leclerc was really fast. The Ferrari on the straight is an absolute missile, and I was quicker than him for the corners, but I just couldn't get anywhere near on the straights. Even with rich mix, DRS and overtake, it was so difficult for me to get within that half a second window. Leclerc was doing a really good job of keeping ahead of that, and Ricciardo now actually out of the race on lap 7, and the laps were ticking over, you know, one by one, and I kept on trying things, but I just couldn't seem to get the gap to Leclerc. He was setting a relentless pace, and you can see behind the gap to Lewis now 4.6 seconds as we set up purple sector 3, and Leclerc was dragging me along for the ride, and we was matching the pace, so it was me versus him, pretty much nobody else in contention, as the gap now to Hamilton nearly 5 seconds. But again, I can't quite get that gap to Leclerc pretty much within half a second. It was really, really difficult as we skip all the way onto lap 13. Again, 6 tenths behind, can't quite, you know, get close enough. But it's worth noting, Bottas in P4, he pits off the medium tyres, so surprisingly only able to make the mediums last 13 laps in the Mercedes, and that caught me off guard a little bit as Leclerc eventually peels away into the pit lane on lap 13. He's going to box. We're going to find out later on what tyre he goes for, but that aside, we're now going to stay out for a little while because of course we're pitting on lap 16 for the medium tyres, so we need to set a couple of strong laps here to really set the pace, as Leclerc currently in the pit lane. Albon also joins him, my own teammate, and then eventually on lap 16 we are going to make our stop. Now at this point everyone done their pit stops, and even Hamilton as well. He went for the hard tyres, Bottas going for the soft, so he went for a 2-stopper. Leclerc though onto the hard compound tyres, so we are going to have a bit of a split strategy here because we are going to go for the medium tyres. This is going to make the race quite interesting in this final stint. A 2.5 second stop could have been better, definitely not the best from the crew, but nonetheless let's see where Charles Leclerc is as we exit the pit lane, and it looks like he's just going through the CRS right now, and it's going to be close, to be fair, closer than I expected, but Leclerc does just about get the edge around the outside and stays ahead for now, but we are still well within DRS range and more than close enough to attack him. But now we've got the benefit of the medium tyres. Now you can see on lap 17 now to lap 18 we set a purple sector 3, and we are within half a second of Charles Leclerc here, but again the same issue persists. I can't quite get close enough. You'll see here on this straight I'm barely able to make any kind of dent on the straights in terms of catching the Ferrari. Leclerc is just so quick, and eventually though we started to get really, really close. The grip of these tyres, especially through the second sector where all the bends are, that's where we start to notice a big benefit. And you can see now 2.5 tenths behind Leclerc. This time we are really, really close, the closest we've ever been to him on lap 18. Here we go, DRS, rich mix and overtake, and we're just about making enough momentum on the straight to get close as we set a new fastest lap. We're going to go around the outside of the center S. Leclerc keeping his car there, but we make all the way around the outside and make a beautiful move up into the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix, but we had to really work for that, and the speed of that Ferrari on the straight in max power is unbelievable. But eventually things kind of went back to normal, and we was able to pull out a gap to Leclerc about 2.8 seconds and use these medium tyres to establish a bit of a lead. And also worth noting, the gap to Hamilton now 14 seconds through the championship leader. Myself and Leclerc really you know, setting a strong pace here today as we set an improved fastest lap on lap 28. But Leclerc keeping with me there, you know, 2.8 behind. He's still within range, but I'm trying to keep the pace up because I want to try and pick up the fastest lap as we set yet another fastest lap here on lap 35, and Leclerc now 3.2 behind us. But eventually others around us would start to improve. So the AI, of course, in typical fashion, in the final few laps they tend to really pick up their pace, and you know, it's going to happen eventually. You can see the engine wear in the bottom right as well, but nonetheless Vettel will pick up the fastest lap. We're going to make our way through though on the final lap of the Grand Prix to win the Brazilian Grand Prix, and it's 4 wins in a row for us.
Awesome driving today. That's 4 race wins in a row.
And so the celebrations begin, and well earned they are indeed. It may have looked simple at times, but as any racing driver will tell you, competing at this level, at the very top, is anything but simple. There's no catching them now then. We have a new World Drivers' Champion. It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Red Bull today. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection, a shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
And there we go then, guys. The results are in, and it's an absolutely brilliant race for us here today. 4 wins on the spin. We've tried our hardest, but unfortunately, it's not enough. Hamilton is a 7-time world champion in Formula 1. He wins the championship in Season 1 of the driver career mode. Leclerc gets 2nd place on track, and Hamilton, of course, on the podium. Sebastian Vettel P4 ahead of Alex Albon. Bottas tried the 2-stopper. It didn't work out. He got the fastest lap in the end, but he finished P6, and that is going to mean Hamilton picks up the championship here today. We've also got Gasly, Stroll, Raikkonen and Ocon in the points, with Giovinazzi, Perez, Grosjean and Magnussen all missing out. As we then look at the standings, so after that race you can see Hamilton 44 points clear of Bottas, very fitting, as Hamilton of course is car 44, and heading to the last race. Job done for Lewis, so 7 championships for him. Meanwhile though, the fight for second is still on, and I said ever since we joined Red Bull I wanted to get that 2nd place. I thought we could do it. It was a long shot, but I wanted to give it a crack. We're only 10 points behind Bottas, so if we were to win in Abu Dhabi and Hamilton finished 2nd, for example, and Bottas managed 3rd, that would give us 2nd place on countback, as we've got 4 race wins to our name. So you never know, it could still happen. It's going to go down to the wire though in the last race in Abu Dhabi. We then move into the constructor standings, and we are in 3rd place. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have enough to catch Ferrari, so we may have to settle for 3rd in the Constructors' Championship, which is still a good result considering, you know, Verstappen was the one that I replaced and not Albon, which was very surprising. Either way, guys, that is it for the race. We're now going to move into an interview.
How are you feeling after that win?
Amazing. Really, really happy. Just so happy. 4 wins in a row is absolutely insane.
Things looked close between you and your rival for a bit, but you came out on top, didn't you?
Well, I think, you know, our form in the last couple of races has been unbelievable, and I think, you know, we enjoyed the rivalry, but I managed to get the job done.
Great. Well, that's everything.
And after that race, you can see, of course, we also win the actual rivalry with Bottas, and happy days, 32 to 28, a 4-point advantage, job done. And to be fair, Bottas led the entire rivalry, but we snatched it away right at the end. We also got up to level 11 with the win and the rivalry victory. And with that, we move into the laptop. And as you can see, we have one of our chassis upgrades arrived, which is great. So we are going to have an improved package heading into the final race in Abu Dhabi, but we're not done there. So we are going to protect a couple of upgrades for the engine, of course, because we've got the regulation change on the way. It's very expensive, though. 1,000 points to protect a major upgrade. That is a big dent in the bank, but hopefully we should be okay to protect all of those upgrades heading into Season 2 nonetheless. Eventually we skip on as we get a few more R&D points. We're going to also spend those on protecting upgrades. And yeah, of course, we're not going to put any more upgrades on the car because we're currently protecting them. And we don't have enough R&D points to also buy some more. Either way, guys, that is it for me here today for the Brazilian Grand Prix. The next episode is going to be the finale of Season 1 for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So hopefully you guys tune in for that one. But if you guys enjoyed this video, drop me a like, subscribe if you are new. Check out the 2 videos on screen right now. And I will see you guys in the next episode for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But until then, guys, take care. And it's goodbye from me.